In the merchant districts of Edo, Japan, wealth rarely announced itself. The richest houses did not always have the loudest gates, the brightest clothing, or the most extravagant tables. Their strength was often hidden inside ledgers, storehouses, family rules, and habits repeated so consistently that they looked almost ordinary. That was the secret. Merchants occupied an unusual position in the social order. They could accumulate influence through commerce, yet public extravagance could attract suspicion and weaken the family. This tension encouraged a culture in which prosperity was often managed privately. Capital remained in the business. Knowledge passed from parent to child. Household codes turned financial judgment into a tradition rather than a temporary personal talent. Wealth was not treated as a dramatic event, it was treated as a discipline. Across generations, merchants, craftsmen, and warrior households learned that money survives not through excitement, but through structure. Their methods were shaped by scarcity, fire, unstable harvests, political restrictions, and the constant risk of loss. Yet many families endured because they followed principles that quietly protected capital, restrained desire, and rewarded patience. 8 of those rules still matter today. The first rule was simple: spend beneath your identity. In Edo society, status could be expensive. Clothing, ceremonies, gifts, and appearances all carried social meaning. But disciplined merchant families understood a dangerous truth. The desire to look wealthy can destroy the ability to become wealthy. Modern psychology calls this social comparison. We measure ourselves against neighbors, colleagues, and strangers online. The moment income rises, spending often rises with it. A better car, a larger home, a newer phone, a more impressive lifestyle. This is lifestyle inflation, and it quietly consumes the future. The old merchant response was restraint. Not poverty, not denial. Restraint. They understood that every coin used to maintain an image was a coin that could no longer protect the household, fund trade, or survive a crisis. Wealth grew when identity was separated from consumption. The second rule was to make the ledger tell the truth. Edo merchants were known for careful record-keeping. Sales, debts, inventory, expenses, and obligations had to be visible. A household could not manage what it refused to measure. Today, financial disorder often begins with avoidance. People delay opening statements, ignore small subscriptions, underestimate daily spending, and treat uncertainty as if it were comfort. But unmeasured money becomes emotional money. Decisions are made by mood instead of evidence. A ledger creates distance between desire and reality. It shows where money is actually going, not where we imagine it is going. This is why a weekly financial review can be more powerful than a sudden burst of motivation. Numbers do not need to shame you, they need to inform you. The third rule was to protect the storehouse before expanding the shop. A merchant family could not depend entirely on tomorrow's sales. Fires could destroy a district, weather could damage harvests, roads could close, customers could disappear. Survival depended on reserves. The modern equivalent is liquidity, emergency savings, manageable debt, insurance where appropriate, and enough flexibility to avoid desperate decisions. Without reserves, every setback becomes expensive. A sudden repair goes on credit. A job loss forces the sale of investments. A market decline becomes permanent because fear demands immediate action. The storehouse represents margin. It gives time to think, and time is one of the most valuable financial assets because it prevents temporary trouble from becoming permanent damage. The fourth rule was to delay pleasure until the mind became clear. Japanese discipline often valued the pause between impulse and action. In money, that pause can be decisive. Consumer psychology is built around urgency. Limited offers, countdowns, social proof, and frictionless payments are designed to shorten reflection. The faster the decision, the less opportunity reason has to intervene. Disciplined households created distance. A purchase could wait. A desire could be observed. The question was not merely, can we afford this? But, what future choice disappears if we buy it? That is opportunity cost. Every purchase closes another possibility. Money spent today cannot also become emergency protection, business capital, or a long-term investment. The wealthy mind learns to see the invisible option that is being sacrificed. The fifth rule was to reinvest before celebrating. Successful merchants did not treat every profitable season as permission for greater consumption. A portion returned to inventory, tools, relationships, apprentices, property, or reserves. This is the logic of compound wealth. Compounding does not look powerful at the beginning. Its early stages are quiet, even disappointing. Small gains seem insignificant. Progress feels slow. But repeated reinvestment changes the scale of what becomes possible. Modern investors often fail because they expect excitement from a process that rewards boredom. They interrupt compounding by chasing trends, reacting to headlines, or consuming the gains before they have time to multiply. The merchant understood that profit was not finished money. It was seed. The sixth rule was to avoid decisions made in emotional weather. Samurai discipline was not simply aggression. At its highest level, it involved control under pressure. A mind ruled by fear, pride, or anger became predictable. Money works the same way. Fear causes panic selling. Greed causes overconfidence. Envy causes unnecessary risk. Shame prevents honest correction. Excitement makes speculation feel like intelligence. Behavioral economics shows that people feel losses more intensely than equivalent gains. This loss aversion can push us toward irrational choices, especially when markets fall or income becomes uncertain. The disciplined response is not to eliminate emotion. It is to avoid obeying it immediately. A written plan, diversified thinking, and clear limits create a financial form of armor. They help the mind remain stable when conditions are not. The seventh rule was to build a name that could outlive a transaction. For merchant families, reputation was economic capital. Trust reduced friction. It created repeat business, stronger partnerships, better credit, and continuity across generations. Short-term profit could never be allowed to destroy long-term credibility. Today, this principle applies far beyond business. Your reliability affects employment, partnerships, borrowing, and opportunity. Skills compound. Trust compounds. So does reputation. A person who keeps promises, learns continuously, and thinks beyond the immediate reward becomes more valuable over time. Generational wealth is not only property or money, it is also judgment, discipline, knowledge, and a family culture that knows how to preserve what has been built. The eighth rule was to define enough before desire defined it for you. Japanese minimalism was not simply an aesthetic. At its core was the removal of excess so that what mattered could become visible. Modern consumer culture has no natural finish line. There is always a newer model, a larger home, a higher status, or another symbol of success. Without a definition of enough, income can rise forever while peace remains distant. The disciplined household chooses its priorities before advertising chooses them. Enough does not mean abandoning ambition. It means knowing which ambitions deserve your life. When spending is guided by purpose, saving becomes less painful. Investing becomes less abstract. Wealth stops being a performance and becomes freedom. Freedom from panic, from dependence, from unnecessary debt, and from choices made only to impress others. Applied, these rules form a system. Awareness controls spending, reserves absorb shocks, patience protects investments, and purpose limits desire. Each rule strengthens the others, making stability less dependent on luck. These 8 rules do not secretly make someone wealthy through magic. Their power is quieter. Spend beneath your identity. Make the ledger tell the truth. Protect the storehouse. Delay pleasure. Reinvest before celebrating. Avoid emotional decisions. Build a trustworthy name. Define enough. None of them is dramatic. That is precisely why they endure. The greatest financial mistakes are often loud, but lasting wealth is usually built in silence. It grows inside decisions no one applauds, purchases you choose not to make, risks you refuse to take, and habits that appear small until years have passed. The Edo merchant understood that wealth was not merely what entered the house. It was what the house had the discipline to preserve. And perhaps the deepest Japanese lesson is this: money does not reveal character by how quickly it arrives. It reveals character by what happens after it enters your hands. In the end, the question is not whether you can earn more. It is whether your habits are prepared to keep, protect, and patiently multiply what you already have.